My girlfriend just gave birth to our first child. I know I am not the biological father, and I revealed that I knew as soon as she gave birth. I found out when she was about 6 months along. The guy, Brian, approached me at work. "Are you Sarah's boyfriend?" I said yeah and asked what he wanted. He said he was sorry that he had slept with her, and he swore that he didn't know that she was with someone. I don't believe that. He then pulled out his phone to show the text messages between them. They had been sleeping together or linking up for at least a year. Then she found out she was pregnant, and they came to an agreement to just pretend that the baby was mine. In return, she wouldn't lose her perfect life, and he wouldn't be responsible for a baby. I knew it was weird. We had been having problems trying for a baby, and all of a sudden she got pregnant so easily. But he explained that he had been thinking about it, and he recently became a Christian. He said that he couldn't live his life knowing that I was living a lie, with his child not knowing their real father. So yeah, I told him I would keep in touch, and to not say that he said anything just yet. I've had a lot of time to think, but ultimately I decided to wait until she gave birth, to hurt her in the most vulnerable moment. I will spare the details, but she went into labor. The baby was born and was taken to the NICU to be monitored for a bit. What should have been a beautiful moment of me holding my baby was the most heartbreaking time of my life. Just knowing he was not mine hurt me. Once she was sewn up and comfortable, I started packing up my stuff to leave. She asked where I was going, and I just told her, "I know I'm not the baby's father. You can act all shocked, but I know. Just ask Brian to come. I'm positive he'll sign the birth certificate." Then I left. She's been calling my phone over and over, even sending text messages as I type this, and has even gotten her sister to call me a few times. It was hard pretending these last few months, but I think I'm satisfied. I feel really heartbroken though. I was planning to propose to her on the day our baby was born. I was gonna make her the happiest woman ever. Oh well, I'm going to go get drunk now. Small update. My head hurts, but I'm home and safe. I will clear up a few things. Brian is going to be in the baby's life if it is his. I don't care what anyone says, I'm sure the kid isn't mine. I will go get tested, but me and Brian have been in contact since last night, and there isn't a doubt in my mind. For those of you calling me a psychopath or whatever, I don't really care. You all will forget about this post in a day anyway. Well, I will have to live with this for the rest of my life. What I did wasn't amazing, but I don't care. All I ever did was treat her amazing, and this is how she pays me back. If you think this is fake, go read something else. Doesn't matter to me. Update. Hi everyone, I just wanted to start by saying I would have updated sooner, but it takes a bit to get the test results back. I've also been working on myself in the time being. Thanks for all the support. I will cut to the chase. I am not the father, but I already knew that deep down. Brian and the baby are a match, so that pretty much answers the question. He's very excited to be a dad, even despite the circumstances. We've kept in touch this whole time, and he's actually a really great guy. Goes to church now, volunteers at shelters, etc. I'm not sure if we will continue to stay in touch after this, but I wouldn't mind getting a drink with him every once in a while. I hope the kid does great in life. He should be with Brian as his dad. As for Sarah, around the time I posted, she asked Brian to be with her officially since there was nothing to hide. As far as I know, he has not taken her up on that offer and just wants to co-parent for the sake of being in his kid's life. I think that's very smart of him, honestly. Me and her have talked as well. We spoke about where it all went wrong. She felt as though I wasn't there for her fully and just felt unfulfilled, which I do understand. I wasn't always the best guy, but I treated her the best I could. I guess it just wasn't meant to be. She started crying and I did give her a hug, but I made sure she knew it wasn't because I cared about her. She's offered to stay friends and for me to visit if I want, but I declined. I'm not really interested in keeping up with her and her kid, but I did give her the stuffed animal I was planning to give our kid as a gift someday. She has been staying with her mom and has fully moved out her stuff. She asked me to keep her number, but I blocked her the same day she finished moving out. So, it's just me now. I'm not gonna lie, my heart has been super heavy, but I think I will be okay. There's a cute girl at my work and we've been talking. She's a single mom and has been awesome so far. I explained that I wanted to go slow because of my recent breakup, and she understands. We've hooked up once or twice, nothing serious yet. I just want to be by myself for now, but I'll likely give her a shot when I'm ready. So, that's it for now. I'm depressed, but I'm working out now at least. I never want to talk to Sarah and will likely never see her again. It sucks because she was such a big part of my life, but that's gone now. So, thanks for all the support. I will answer questions if you guys have any. Edit. Just wanted to mention that I still don't feel bad about what I did. I can tell she is still hurting, but I definitely think it's deserved still. New update. I keep getting DMs asking me to update, so here's one. It's been roughly 8 months. No, I don't talk to Sarah. Screw Sarah. I haven't seen her. Last I heard, she moved to 3 hours away with her mom to be closer with some family. I kept seeing her around town a lot, so I'm beyond grateful that she is gone. She would attempt to have conversations with me sometimes in the first month after she gave birth, but that soon stopped. As for Brian, we text occasionally, and we did go out for that beer. He overall seems happy to be a father, but we don't talk about Sarah. I don't keep up much with him anyways. We're both hardworking men with jobs, kids, and lives, so it's kinda hard to keep up. I don't think they're together at all, but who knows. Speaking of kids, the woman who was a single mom that I started seeing, we're still together. Her kid is awesome, and I love being her stepdad, to be honest. So a big middle finger to those who told me to stop talking to her or that it wasn't gonna work out. It may seem like we moved fast, but at this point, I don't care. I've never loved anyone more. We communicate properly, hardly fight, just so much fun. I initially was gonna cut all contact with her after falling off into a bad drinking habit, but she really kept me grounded. I didn't meet my stepdaughter for a while, but when I did, I knew I couldn't leave. Being a part of this little family has helped heal me in ways I literally cannot fathom. And before anyone says I just used them to deal with trauma of not having my own kid, that couldn't be further from the truth. I am in therapy. I got my stuff together, and most days I don't even think about my ex. Hell, I even forgot about this damn account. Words cannot describe how much my life has picked up. Thank you, Reddit strangers, for being there in the darkest time of my life. Honestly, it helped. Hoping to propose to my girlfriend sometime in the future. That's it. Bye. So, OP realized his kid wasn't his kid, learned he was getting cheated on, ditched his girl, made a friend, got a beer buddy, also got a stepdaughter and a new lady. Good for him, it seems like. I'm sure some people will probably have a problem still with OP leaving the ex while she was giving birth or right afterwards and dropping the news. Maybe not the best time, I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think on the matter. But, overall, that part aside, which may need to be debated, good for him. You know, he got cheated on. He said, I'm not going to deal with the drama. I'm gone. I'm not going to try and bargain. I know my line. I know my limit. And you crossed it. Goodbye. Now I got a stepdaughter. Anyway, next story. Story number 2. Am I the a-hole for not sympathizing with my ex-wife's affair partner after she groomed and abused him? Longtime lurker, and I've been struggling with my decision here. Some details will be vague for reasons I hope you all have the capacity to understand why. Trigger warning, domestic abuse, and SA. Long backstory, so bear with me. My 34M ex 33F admittedly had a ton of red flags when we started dating. She was my first serious relationship, and I wasn't always very confident or outgoing compared to her, and I'll always be kicking myself for practically dancing into the arms of a narcissist. We got married way too young, at 24 and 23, and the next several years were spent with her demanding my entire life change at her whims. Mood swings, gaslighting when she seemed to be carrying on emotional affairs, isolating me, arguments out of nowhere, nights sleeping on the couch, financial abuse. Her family is very well off, by the way, and they foot the bill for the wedding and our house. She also had demeaning comments and general emotional abuse. One other thing was that she was always more sexually adventurous and always wanted to try newer and weirder things. I am a little open-minded, but sometimes had to set firm boundaries with her or shut her down when it got too uncomfortable. This is important for later. Back then, I thought by just dealing with it, I was being strong and protecting our marriage. If I could go back in time, I would kick my younger self's ass. 2 years back, things came to a head. It came out that she had been carrying on a full-fledged affair with our neighbor's son, who had only been 18 for around 6 months. We knew this kid since he was 16. At that point, she was freshly 31. I finally pulled my head out of my ass, but by that point, it was too late. The coming months absolutely effing sucked. I got kicked out. Her parents left the house solely to her. I never had any impression I was going to have any claim to it, so I saw that coming at least. Lawyer costs financially drained me and moved in with my parents for the time being, while my ex, her affair partner, her family, and affair partner's family harassed me on the daily for months. My ex tried every dirty trick in the book on her parents' dime with the divorce. Somehow, by the grace of God and my lawyer, I made it out relatively fine. She would send grueling insults, with every insult you could think of from a cheating narcissist. Her affair partner painted me as a crippled old man and had his friends send insulting messages, videos of him and my ex, and whatever they could think of on the daily, and only stopped when I got law enforcement involved. My ex's family, they never liked me and gladly jumped at the opportunity to mock me. And the affair partner's family, who obviously saw dollar signs regardless of the greater context, had no problems joining in to score points. This brings me to around 3 weeks ago. By then, 2 years had gone by with me back on my feet, a year of therapy under my belt, a new job, and a new sense of confidence, and recently a new girlfriend. A bit of info, I never left the area. My family only lived a couple of hours away from where my ex and I lived. My job is going too well to risk getting up and leaving for parts unknown. Because I was in the same area, I got little tidbits of info regardless if I wanted to hear it or not. I know the affair partner's family moved away. He moved in with her, and the world slowly saw less and less of him. To sum it up, I got called by his family to see him in the hospital. I don't know all the details, but basically, roughly over a month ago, my ex's affair partner went dark. Over a 5-month period, they slowly heard less and less of him, but a month back, they lost contact. Why it took them this long to raise hell is beyond me, but I imagine a family that would allow their son to be groomed for money isn't great at ensuring their son is okay. Police stopped by her house for a wellness check, only for him to answer the door looking like the Walking Dead. The police found him, and from what they describe, he was practically in hell. He had been routinely beaten and SA'd nonstop for God knows how long. The whole investigation has opened a black hole of craziness. I've asked around for more info and got little tidbits, but not much. It was found that multiple people were involved, and allegedly there are videos of what they were doing to him. They found evidence of God knows how many drugs and substances that were being pumped into him. My ex and whoever else was involved are facing longer and longer sentences the more they find out. His family wants me to visit him as he wants to make amends. He wants to apologize. He's broken. He's scared for his life. He's suicidal. Whatever reason they can spew out to bring me to him, they've said it. Why should I be dragged into this crap? His own family practically sold him. My ex's family seem to actually have had no knowledge of this and are practically scraping their hands clean and throwing her to the wolves. But I have to step back into this? I get he was groomed. I get he was influenced, and I understand some truly awful stuff happened to him. But why should I come back to all of this and let the people who hurt me know that all is forgiven? They've been harassing me about this nonstop now, and even my family thinks I should talk to him. Minor update. I guess posting about this gave me the kick in the ass to communicate with my family. Mainly, it's my parents who are encouraging reaching out. They explained their reasoning to me, and it makes sense where they are coming from. They are simply worried that if I try and ignore them, it will kick off another year-long harassment campaign from them. They saw how messed up I was last time I went through this, and they simply wanted it to end as quickly as possible, so I didn't go through the same stuff again. I have assured them that there is no way they'll be able to go through with that again, and worst case scenario, I'll change my number again. They understood and have stopped pushing. Final update. I'm gonna bow out of the situation. No dramatic confrontation. No big show to everyone. Just gonna have my lawyer draw up a statement requesting to be left alone, and I will double check making sure I won't have to be involved in any proceedings in the near future. From the brief chat I had with my lawyer so far, there's no real logical reason for me to be involved unless either side was getting desperate. Regardless, I have pages of documentation from way back showing my concern towards his age, as well as clearly stating I was not involved in what transpired since then. I understand many of you wanted something more dramatic, but that's just how it is. All the loose ends are wrapped up, and I'm moving on. Also, I won't be deleting the account yet, despite what I claimed earlier, just in case something comes up or happens. However, do not expect court updates, as that takes a very long time, and I most likely won't have any involvement. I can share a couple of theories from people I have heard about what is happening. These are all bits of info passed down by mutuals of mutuals, and have been going through a game of telephone for weeks. So, please assume these are either widely exaggerated or outright BS. First, affair partner's family and ex-in-law's family are all prepping to stab each other in the back, as each seem to be holding on to dirt to use against the other. Possibly knowledge of the affair going on before 18. 2. X, in retaliation for being abandoned, has knowledge of, and I quote directly from the messenger, tax stuff regarding her parents. It isn't some big thing that would be federal, probably just some money out of their pockets down the line. Her family aren't very powerful, just well off. Next, there's also affair partner's father is bordering on having to be placed under watch due to him wanting to take his own life. Next, affair partner's mother apparently had reservations from the beginning, pretty much got bought off, and is now livid and considering divorce. There's also that affair partner is trying to get his friends for support and they are bailing. Some of these guys were part of the original harassment campaign way back then, and have apparently realized the error of their ways, and don't want to step back in. And finally, one of his abusers from the group got a knock at the door by the police at home with his wife and kids and ended his life on the spot. This has also been called out as fake by another person, and there is no evidence this happened, but it's still a gray area as no one knows the name of who was involved, just the number of people. Now here are some relevant comments. User 1 said, "Did your ex get into meth out of the blue? This seems like meth head stuff." There are theories and stories from those who I dared to ask, none of them pleasant, but considering what his family mentioned about him being forced onto drugs, I'm going to assume she was on them as well. Then user 2 commented and said, "There could be a possibility of being a witness, if revenge on your ex is something that would make you feel okay. Not the a-hole, but the kid was essentially a child when groomed, so I would suggest at least letting go of that hatred, even if you choose to remain uninvolved. Best wishes." I assume I have no real reason to be called upon as a witness for whatever happens, unless they somehow try to go all the way back to the beginning and get me involved, which seems wild to me. This, however, is all speculative, and also, despite how quickly Reddit stories want us all to think with this stuff, it's going to take a while to go to court. Update. Apologies in advance. This update will be stupid and asinine. So, as I always knew was a possibility, sending a letter from my lawyer to the affair partner's parents wasn't the bulletproof shield I was hoping it would be. Desperate people aren't swayed by mere legal matters. Within 2 days, things started spiraling out of control, and very quickly, they called me directly again. Make no mistake, I saw the writing on the wall. Somehow, I'll be getting dragged into this no matter what. My parents and girlfriend were as supporting as they could be, but at some point I said screw it and arranged to speak with the affair partner's dad. I know I'm an idiot and a fool, but I need to actually know what's going on. To condense what was discussed without spoiling any info in regards to the investigation, everyone was turning against each other, and everyone was out for blood, and secrets were finally spilling. The affair partner's dad. The floodgates opened, as I knew everyone was basically aware that my ex groomed him, most likely starting at 16. If there was any physical proof such as messages, they are long gone. This kid was basically a bad seed, history of trouble without a clear direction in his future. His dad is a confusing person. He is the kind of dad that wanted to be rid of his problem child, but was also proud in a way of his son getting involved with the hotter older woman with a well-off family. He basically spilled the beans that he supported the relationship as it gave him the benefit of getting his son out of the house, and gladly took whatever my ex's family offered as a token of appreciation. He was a lousy father, plain and simple. As time went by, he appeared to realize the situation he put his son in, and it only got worse from there. The affair partner's mom. She was a stay-at-home mother who was always the silent, submissive parent in the marriage. As it turns out, she raised hell from the beginning, but at the behest of her husband, I'm suspecting the marriage is way more abusive than he let on, he got her to drop it. He controlled her entire life practically. She never was happy and always tried to get her son to help and get him away from my ex. After what has happened in the last few weeks, she has had it. She is divorcing him, letting his family know what happened, and plans on cleaning him out in the divorce. The silent, submissive wife was driven too far. From what I saw of the dad, it's hit him hard how his years of bad choices have ruined his family. He is a hollow shell of a man. As for my ex and her family, they are tearing each other apart. My ex has lost her job, reputation, her circle of freaks, and her money. Her parents, their family humiliated, their involvement taking over local gossip, and desperate to salvage the fallout that they will endure when more people find out. And they are in the midst of a separation, and a brutal divorce is on the horizon. However, the possibility of an investigation is at risk due to the affair partner. My jaw hit the effing floor when I heard about him. He is backpedaling hard. Over the last 2 weeks, he has been retracting every claim, every accusation, every bit of evidence that could put these sick freaks in prison. I kid you not, and I wish I had the capacity to make this up. He has gotten the people who are in the video SAing him to verify with him that they were taking part in recorded fetish videos. My brain simply cannot comprehend this. It just won't allow me. Now, I'm not stupid. He is clearly psychologically broken. He was alone with them for months. He needs a psychiatrist immediately. The reason they are so desperate for me to be involved is because it's the last desperate flails of a collapsing group of narcissists and parental failures desperately trying to talk to him. And they want me involved as they need people with history with my ex to try and actually make a case, since their son is doing everything he can to not make one happen. As of now, any case against my ex is in limbo. It's just so sad. This situation is so stupid all around because it was so avoidable. All the dad had to do was be a proper guiding father to his son, help him become a proper adult. All his mom had to do was not be a pushover. All my ex's parents had to do was not support an illegal relationship just to spite me. All my ex had to do was not be an awful human being. Now a kid is possibly deeply mentally broken permanently, all because the guiding figures in his life didn't care. I won't lie, I still hate him so much, but he doesn't deserve this. If I ever update again, it would be a year or so down the road, after all the dust has settled. This is such a stupid, pointless situation. So, I don't remember the last time we've had such a tremendous train wreck of a story. Good grief. I definitely do hope that OP updates down the line, because this is the type of thing where I'm like, I want to see the explosive finale, because everybody's got something going on in this story. Not one person is safe. Even OP was seemingly dragged back into this a little bit. Like, even the mailman probably has some stake in this fight at this point, because everyone is a terrible person or a pushover or broken or just... There's no normal person in this story with a regular life. But anyway, next story. Story number 3. Final update. She stole again. I, 26M, threw my pregnant girlfriend 22F out because she refuses to pay rent or her share of the bills. Long story short, my girlfriend and I have been living together for around 10 months. When she first moved in, she insisted on paying rent, and I was reluctant to charge her if it didn't work out, but she forced it and paid a month. Then I found out she's struggling for money, unable to pay for things, is in a lot of debt, and lives month to month. She agreed with me that she would start when she clears the debt. Fast forward to Christmas, I find out she's been stealing my clothes to give to her family as gifts. She lied for 2 weeks, blaming me, until I showed her footage of her taking things from the camera in the living room. The camera is meant to watch the dog when I'm out. I later discover through letters and text messages that I've seen appear on her phone that she's been doing nothing to pay any of it off. So, I confront her. She tells me and shows me messages that her mother and sister constantly guilt trip her into giving them money, and have for years. They'll message her on payday, asking for it, and she feels bad saying no, despite none of them ever paying it back. Her mom alone owes her over 6,000 euros. She has taken out loans for her family, and they leave her with the debt and don't pay it back. Luckily, her credit is now at the point where nobody will loan to her, but she still tries and does it for them. I also found out, and I went through her finances. Yes, I shouldn't have, but something wasn't adding up and I was being lied to. But I found out that in the space of 20 minutes, she spent 300 euros on gambling sites. All during this time, she isn't paying a penny towards rent, bills, anything. She will occasionally buy food for shopping trips or go out to Starbucks. I tell her enough is enough, and she needs to start paying her way. If she can give handouts to her family and gamble, she can pay for where she lives, and she's taken me for a ride when she should have been saving and clearing debts. I make roughly 5 times what she does, but I've been fair in that the bills are split proportionally to income. She'll earn $1,400 per month and pays $600, which includes rent and her share of the bills. I take on the rest, which is substantially more, but I believe it's not fair to take more. On the first of the month, she tells me she can't pay rent. She says that she's paid out too much on our trips to Starbucks, food shopping too, and I will get it when I get it. But she doesn't understand why I need it this month, when she's lived for free for the past 9 months anyway. I've asked her to explain where her money has exactly gone, but she tells me I'm controlling and it's none of my business. In fairness, she will pay when we go food shopping, but rarely in comparison to me. I have kicked her out as of yesterday and told her she needs to find somewhere to live. She is, however, pregnant, and she's using that card as a way to guilt trip me and make it out that I've thrown her and her child onto the streets. In my opinion, she is taking me for a ride and prioritizing her family that is using her over her own family that she's started? What's the solution here to getting her to see she's not treating me fairly? Update. I sat her down and gave her an ultimatum early last week. I explained to her that we are a family and became a family when she decided to have a baby with me. I told her if we're going to stay together, she's going to have to be a lot more open, contribute, and no more taking on debt she can't afford, which brings it to my door when she can't pay. I also told her I want to see her bank statements because I suspect she has a gambling problem and is in some serious debt. She agreed to all of this and committed to showing me the bank statements when I ask, and says that going forward, she will pay towards the bills. I believe she has turned a corner and we're starting to get along better, and she's moved back in. As I was sat next to her phone last night, she went to grab a drink and her phone lit up with a text message. It read, "Loan accepted by ex-lender. Click here to accept." And I immediately called her out, and she starts crying, telling me she has no money left again for the month and she's had to resort to payday loans for some money. I told her she should have come to me, and I told her that I explicitly said earlier, no more loans. She also tells me she won't be able to afford to pay bills again. She works full-time and brings home around 1,200 to 1,400 euros a month, depending on how many hours. But a lot of the time, she calls out sick, so she gets sick pay, which is a lot less. I asked to see her bank statements, and she refuses, telling me I'm being controlling and saying that I don't need to see them. That is the last straw for me. I'm almost certain that she's been giving it away at this point again or gambling. So I give her a scenario. Your baby is starving and needs food, and there's none in the house. What are you going to do? So she replies with, "You'll have to pay." That's fine. I will happily support my son, and I tell her because the mother is clearly a deadbeat. So I ask to see her Facebook Messenger to see if her family have been hitting her up for free money again, and conveniently, all of the family members that borrow from her have the chats cleared. She says that she deletes them to be tidy, yet mine is still there. I told her this isn't going to work, and she tells me I'm a controlling freak basically, and she agrees, and I've not heard from her since. Moral of the story is she's too damaged from her upbringing, I'm guessing, and some people you just can't change. She still messages me asking how I am, but I'm just ignoring her, except from anything baby related. I need to move on. I know a lot of people questioned whether she's pregnant or not, and how stupid I was to get her pregnant. I agree, and if the baby is mine. I've been to every scan, so I know she's pregnant. As for if it's mine, I've never suspected cheating, but she is a serial liar, so I will be forcing a DNA test through the courts. I posted on a couple of different subreddits to make sure I wasn't getting biased opinions. The above story is 100% true. I wish it wasn't, believe me, but my focus is now getting as far away as possible from her for my own sake. Final update. After a couple of weeks and learning that she was sleeping around on family members' or friends' sofas, I allowed her back into the house, given that she is pregnant. This was around a month ago, all out of concern for the baby, given that she's now 8 months pregnant. Stupid on my part, and I'm now going to explain why I regret it. I've recently moved houses a couple of months ago, and she was involved in the packing and unpacking while I was out. Mainly unpacking. I had a pretty large stack of cash in the drawer in a cabinet in the living room, around 400 to 500 euros. This was a Christmas gift for my parents. During this time, I also sold a lot of old furniture, including a sofa which she begged and begged for me to sell it to her mother. I begrudgingly accepted this. She told me her mother had asked to borrow the money from her repeatedly to buy it for me and asked if she could pay a couple of weeks after she took it. No biggie? That's fine, I tell her. Her mother collects the sofa, giving me around 100 in cash initially, and tells me the rest will be with me in a week. A week comes around and she tells me it'll be next month, but she's not happy as the couch has collapsed and I need to come take a look. I tell her it was fine when she collected it and I'm not taking a look. Basically, if you don't want it, I will collect it and sell it to someone who actually wants to pay. She tells me I'm not welcome in their house. My girlfriend, my ex, told her there was nothing wrong with the sofa at all when it was collected, and her mother tells me she's also not welcome. My ex then flips it onto me, telling me I'm controlling and she didn't need to get involved to fall out with her family. I didn't make her, but I told her it showed her where her priorities lie when she's defending them and not wanting to get involved over them screwing me over. It was left at that. Back to the money. I went to see where the money went and searched the entire house. It's not there, but everything that was unpacked was there. Even pointless crap like a blown light bulb was packed and unpacked. I ask her where the money is, and she immediately gets defensive, telling me it's somewhere, and immediately I think this is all the same answers as last time. It then dawned on me that the money I was gifted was in 10 euro notes, and the money I was paid for my sofa was also in 10 euro notes. so my suspicion is she stole my money for her to hand to her mother to pay me. I've basically paid myself minus what's been taken. I confronted her and she replied, "Even if I did admit it, I don't care about you anymore, so I don't need to." Probably makes sense why she was trying to take a loan out roughly the same time she would have taken the money. So there we have it. I let her stop for a while and this is where it's landed me. Her stealing again. Whilst I have no solid proof whatsoever, it could only be her that took it, and if everything else got unpacked, then she certainly took it. She's now threatening to out me to people who I really am, a victim of theft, I guess, and she'll tell everyone how awful I am, and to not bother contacting her. I have thrown her back out again for the very last time, and I'm just relieved. Not sad at all. Now I'm forcing a DNA test at birth and will fight to make sure no child of mine is brought up in a family like hers. She is poison. People like her don't change. They just take more. So, you guys know how a gambler will keep coming back to something even if they're losing? They're like, one more time, one more time. I feel like this guy's kind of like a gambler with his ex. Let her in one more time, talk to her one more time, we can work it out one more time. I don't know. I feel like he should have gotten the hint already, but at least he seemingly so has seen it for good, so maybe better late than never. He also mentioned in the comments that we might hear from him again, and the post has been labeled as ongoing, so maybe we'll get an update down the line. We do updates on this channel. I will say, though, I do have one suggestion for OP and the ex. It's called therapy because, oh my god, but I think one of the biggest morals of this story is learn about your partners, right? You don't need to know everything about them, but you want to know a lot about them, right? Because you should know if your partner has a gambling addiction and no money before you have a child with them. I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy and insane and stupid, but who knows? Anyway, next story. Story number 4. New update. Am I the a-hole for calling my father's wife a creep? My 32F father, 60s, has been married to Sasha, 40s, for almost a decade. I was already an adult when they started seeing each other, so I never had much of a relationship with her. That said, Sasha was nice and thoughtful, though a bit annoying at times, and I never had any problems with her. I now have a husband, 34M, and 2 kids, 9M and 4F. Sasha is very fond of my children, especially my daughter. That became very suffocating pretty quickly, so we started setting some boundaries, and she never overstepped them. In January, my father and Sasha decided to go on a trip to Disney World and invited us to join them. We decided to go celebrate our son's 9th birthday. I quickly regretted coming along. Sasha spent the entire trip fussing over my daughter in ways that overstepped almost every boundary that we had set. Examples include, Sasha bought a tiara that looked like Minnie Mouse ears. She wanted me to buy my daughter an identical one so they could match. My daughter didn't like the tiara, so I bought her a Donald Duck hat instead. Sasha got her the tiara anyway and was upset that she didn't want to wear it. My father and Sasha went shopping in between parks. I told them not to buy my kids anything, as we still had shopping to do and didn't want to risk making our bags too heavy. Still, Sasha returned with 5 bags of clothing for my daughter and 2 for my son, saying she couldn't resist. My daughter wanted a Belle costume to wear at the parks, as that's her favorite princess. Sasha tried to convince us to get her an Ariel costume instead, because that's her favorite. I explained that we never watched The Little Mermaid at home because my daughter is scared of Ursula. Sasha also insisted on taking dozens of pictures with my daughter in front of the castle at Magic Kingdom. She also took some with my son, but not nearly as many. She also tried to convince us to take our daughter to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, but we refused because the prices are crazy, and we had already bought her the Belle costume. She offered to pay, but we held our ground. I later found out Sasha tried to make a reservation anyway, but there was no availability. When we took our daughter to Slinky Dog Dash, her first roller coaster, Sasha tried to sit next to her. My daughter wanted to sit with me, so we switched. She tried to do the same thing in other attractions as well. At the Muppets Theater, she tried to get my daughter to sit in her lap. Sasha also tried to pick her up while we met some of the characters. There were more instances, but the final straw for me, however, was the last park of the day trip. We were at Magic Kingdom. My husband suffered a minor injury, and I had to take him to the first aid station. The kids wanted to go to the Peter Pan ride, so my dad and Sasha offered to take them in the meantime. However, according to my father, the line was too long. So instead, Sasha suggested the Little Mermaid ride, assuring my kids Ursula wasn't on it. But it turns out there's actually a pretty big Ursula animatronic there. My daughter was still sobbing and hugging her brother when we reunited. When we flew back home, I told my father that we would no longer take our children on trips with Sasha due to her behavior. He got extremely angry. He said his wife loved my kids, thought about what they'd like to do at every moment of the trip, and that we should be grateful to have her in our lives. I lost my temper at that. I told him Sasha was an effing creep and that they should be grateful I was still okay with them even seeing my children after her actions during the trip. We ended up having a huge fight after that. It's been weeks since we returned home, and my father is still angry at me and my husband. Sasha has texted me a few times. She says that she's sorry if she made me uncomfortable, but that she loves my kids and hoped to use the trip to spend more time with them. To be honest, I don't think I'm the a-hole here, but I do think I may have overreacted. I believe there's a chance Sasha's actions were motivated by love, and she truly did have good intentions. So, am I the a-hole? Then in the comments section, the consensus was that OP was not the a-hole. Then one user commented and said, "You are not the a-hole because you have your children's best interests at heart. But it may benefit you and your dad's relationship to understand why Sasha is acting like this. Overstepping boundaries is easier for someone when they believe it's for a good cause or to have fun in a safe way. Does she have kids of her own? Can she not have kids of her own? Does she maybe see the kids as her grandkids? It's a difficult one, but getting to the source of that could make this whole thing healthier. But on the other hand, it's not your job to put that work in when it's your father's relationship. All I'd suggest you do is explain to your father that you set boundaries, and regardless of intention, Sasha broke them, which you do not condone. Good luck." Sasha does not have children of her own. My father has me and my sister and has always been open about not wanting more kids. They're married, so I'm assuming she doesn't want kids either. I also don't think that she sees my children as grandchildren. She's always referred to herself as Aunt Sasha instead. When I got pregnant with my son, she commented she was too young to be a grandma. Then user 2 commented and said, "Not the a-hole. You set some pretty clear boundaries that Sasha kept crossing the entire trip. Even your daughter seems to not be particularly receptive towards her. Also, your son can probably pick up on this favoritism, and that's not good for him either. I don't mean to do armchair psychology, but this reads like Sasha has always wanted a young daughter and is using yours to live vicariously through. Hence why she kept trying to push things that your daughter doesn't like onto her, the tiara, Little Mermaid ride, etc." My son does not like Sasha. I'm not sure why, but I think he gets that she favors my daughter. He's also very protective of his sister, so her discomfort could also be a reason. Then user 3 commented and said, "Not the a-hole. She sounds exhausting, but she also doesn't seem like a truly awful person. Question, does she have children of her own? She probably sees your kids as a chance to play mommy if she's never had kids. She may not even be aware of exactly how intrusive she's being. Looks like there's a 20-year age gap between she and your dad. She probably thought she would be okay with not having kids. I'm guessing your dad may have told her he's done with having babies. But your little ones, especially your daughter, may have just stirred up those feelings and she's trying to compensate. I still don't think you're the a-hole, but maybe have an honest talk with her, just you and her, and try and show a little grace. My apologies if you've done all that already and she's still being a pill." You are right about a lot of things. She doesn't have kids, my dad doesn't want more children, and while she's defined herself as child-free before, she's also told me she'd always wondered what having a daughter would be like. My husband and I started setting boundaries because the situation was really bad when my daughter was younger. She'd wake her up from naps when she visited, posted pictures of her on social media without our approval, and complained about almost every parenting decision we'd make because it wasn't how she would do it. Update number 1. Hey everyone, I'm ready to give you an update. I read your comments and came to the following conclusion. As much as Sasha's behavior towards my children angered me and freaked me out, calling her a creep was the wrong reaction to have. With that said, I think it's best for my family to distance itself from Sasha for the time being. And at the very least, my previous decision to avoid future trips with her based on what happened at Disney is still the best course of action. Sasha's pushiness, tendency to override my and my husband's parenting, and blatant favoritism towards my daughter were much worse when my kids were younger. After my daughter's birth, she began to focus too much attention on her and almost none on my son. That's the reason we set boundaries in the first place. The way she fusses over my daughter also bothers me. When we had the boundary conversation with my father and Sasha, she told us that she'd always wondered what having a daughter would be like. She had also defined herself as child-free before, so I was never certain what to think of that. Either way, that reassured me and my husband that we were going to do the best for our kids. Those boundaries had never been overstepped. Then, we went on the Disney trip, and most of them were completely ignored. Many of you pointed out she might have gotten carried away, or that Disney is exciting and she wanted to make sure my kids had the best experience, etc. There are two things I will say to that. The first is, whatever Sasha's reasons were, she still overstepped our boundaries. When we first set those, we told her that doing so would have consequences. Disney or not, I did not see a reason to make an exception. Secondly, she wasn't trying to ensure my kids had the best experience. She was pushing them to fulfill her fantasy of what their Disney trip should look like. She repeatedly ignored my children's wishes in favor of her own, despite them both being very clear about what they wanted and didn't want. Sasha also continuously favored my daughter, including during my son's birthday, and fussed over her in ways that made her uncomfortable. And I still haven't forgiven the Little Mermaid thing. My daughter is a bit shy and takes a while to open up to most people, so knowing her trust was broken like that angers me in ways I can't describe. To put it in simpler terms, my children aren't props, and whoever treats them as such will, at the very least, be put in timeout. I called my father and Sasha on Saturday. I apologized for calling Sasha a creep, but told them that we needed some time apart. They won't see my family until my younger sister's birthday in late April. If that goes well, they will be invited to my daughter's 5th birthday party in May. After that, we will slowly work on re-establishing contact. I also said that if they overstepped our boundaries again, the consequences would be more dire. My father didn't take it well. I don't care. Sasha sent me a text message with more apologies, followed by a request to at least FaceTime my kids every now and then. I said no. And to those who said my controlling behavior ruined the trip, my kids had an amazing time at Disney World. They're both still talking about it. My daughter keeps asking us to put her pictures with the characters she met up with on the wall, and my son says he had the best birthday ever. So, I think that's it. Thank you for your advice and support on my first post. Now, here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said, "You protected your children, and that's the best thing you can do in any situation. I'm glad they're still talking about the trip, despite favoritism and the Ursula animatronic, which means you and your husband managed to outshine all of that with wonderful memories. As for the possible reconciliation, anyone can act normal for a day. The birthday in late April, I mean, especially if they know there's a goalpost on that day. It's the behavior over time that counts. If they're still messaging you, requesting FaceTime calls, and calling you unreasonable despite you clearly saying you want no contact, you could begin a tally. 1 point for each request, and when it's X amount of points, they'll have their timeout extended because they obviously don't understand boundaries yet." That is great advice. We don't want to go no contact, but we will if our boundaries are disrespected. Knowing my father, a tally wouldn't be well received. I'm doing my best to avoid turning things into a bigger fight, but that kind of system would probably make things worse. It might be worth a shot though. I'll talk to my husband about it. Then user 2 commented and said, "Thanks for the update. You are doing the right thing and are prepared if your father and Sasha keep trying to push against your boundaries. Make sure anyone who might take their side is fully aware of the consequences of trying to mediate or help them." Thankfully, no one is taking their sides. At most, my sister said that I had been cruel to them. Then one user asked if OP has spoken with her daughter about being uncomfortable with Sasha. It has always been clear that my daughter was uncomfortable with Sasha's behavior, which is why we made so many efforts to reinforce our boundaries. Timid or not, she was very vocal about what she wanted, be it our company or specific rides and souvenirs. In spite of that, I know we didn't shelter our daughter from everything. She's only 4, so I know the situation was a lot for her to process, and she can't articulate her feelings as well as her brother can. But she's not looking forward to seeing Sasha anytime soon, and I intend to respect that. And finally, user 3 commented and said, "I see so many cases of women being arrested for inappropriate sexual relationships with minors that I am dead convinced any adult who fixates on a child like that has bad intentions, regardless of gender. You 100% made the right choice, and I would highly advocate for not leaving your children, especially your daughter, alone with her, or let her have unsupervised contact. Thank you for being an advocate for your children and what makes them comfortable. Neither of my children have ever been alone with Sasha. She's tried to offer babysitting services before, but we always say no. My son doesn't like her, and my daughter will usually do whatever he does. Update number 2. 2 months later. Last time I posted here, I mentioned that my father and Sasha wouldn't see my children until my younger sister's birthday. The party took place last weekend, and we did not attend. These 2 months of no contact worked fine, but not great. My father respected my wishes, to my surprise, but Sasha kept trying to find ways to speak to my children. She'd call me under the guise of needing to ask me something, only to later say, "By the way, are the kids around? I want to say hi." Every time she tried that, I would remind her of what I told her back in March. This must have happened almost a dozen times, which was enough for my husband and I to start debating on skipping the party. After speaking to our kids, we decided to not go. They both said they missed my father but clearly didn't want to see Sasha. We thought about attending and just distancing them from her while there, but risking making our children uncomfortable was not worth it. My son even asked if we could see their aunt somewhere else without Sasha around. My husband and I explained the situation to my sister. She was upset, but mostly because she hadn't seen the kids in a while. We all went to dinner at her favorite restaurant the day after her party. I also called my father and told him we wouldn't go to the birthday party. He reacted better than I expected, but we still had a short fight about it. He claimed that I had promised we'd let Sasha see the kids after 2 months. He called me unfair and said he was entitled to have a relationship with his grandchildren. I immediately denied that. Though I tried to sugarcoat it at first, I eventually gave him the truth. My kids don't want to see his wife, and I won't force them to. My father and I had a long talk. I told him how much Sasha's actions at the Disney trip upset my children, as well as how uncomfortable me and my husband felt. I admitted I didn't trust his wife at all, and I don't think I ever truly will. He said that while he still thought I was overreacting, he understood I wanted to protect my kids. My dad also told me how these 2 months of no contact were for them. Apparently, Sasha started talking about my kids, mostly my daughter, a lot more than usual. She'd mention things in places she thought they would like. My father was aware of one of the times she called me, but thought it was a one-time thing. She wanted to give my daughter a gift at my sister's birthday party. He said he didn't know why. At one point, she told him she wanted to plan another family vacation with the kids, even though I told them they're not traveling with Sasha anymore. Learning all of that just made me more certain that I can't trust this woman around my children. For now, I intend to remain low contact with my father and no contact with Sasha. My daughter told me she wanted her grandpa at her birthday party a few weeks from now, so I told her that he was invited, but Sasha wasn't. He agreed. To be honest, I don't trust my father after all of this. I'm allowing him to come because that party will take place at my home, which is easier for me to control. If he tries to bring Sasha, they will both be kicked out, and it will take a long time for me to even consider letting him near my kids again. My father hasn't told me how his wife is reacting to this. My sister told me that during her party, Sasha asked her to tell me that she wanted to talk. I am not reaching out to her, nor do I plan to respond if she attempts to contact me. Both me and my husband have blocked her. My children, they're doing great. They still talk about how much fun they had at Disney. My daughter's been saving money, putting coins in her piggy bank, for us to go back. On a completely different note, I am pregnant again. This was completely unplanned. I also said I wanted 2 kids at most, and the third would have to be a huge accident, but my husband and I are ecstatic. I'm still in the first trimester, so not a lot of people know. We're brainstorming on ways to tell our kids. Overall, I'm happy with my life right now, and as much as I wish the Sasha situation had never happened, I feel like a better parent after dealing with it. I have never been more confident in my abilities to protect my children than I am now. I don't think I'll update again anytime soon. Once again, thank you all for the support you've given me. I wish you the best. Then in the comments section, one user accused OP of turning her children against her father's wife and avoiding events when Sasha is present. As much as I appreciate your insight, allow me to explain why I won't change my mind on the subject. First of all, I'm not concerned about avoiding too many events. My paternal family is smaller than my maternal side, and there aren't many get-togethers in the first place. The only reason my dad even went to my sister's birthday party was because she wanted to introduce her boyfriend to him. My father has also seen my children without Sasha countless times before, so that's not a concern either. I don't dislike Sasha. Even if I did, I've always been very careful to not let my opinions of others affect my children, specifically because I aim to teach them to be polite. But my kids are allowed to express themselves. If they don't like person X, they don't have to be around person X. It doesn't matter how much person X wants to see them. I'm not teaching them to sacrifice their comfort for someone who doesn't actually care about them. And no, Sasha doesn't actually care about my children, nor has she tried to build a relationship with them. Instead, she tries to push them, especially my daughter, to do what she wants to see them doing. Almost none of her actions during the Disney trip were for my daughter's benefit. They were for hers. Sasha is not my children's grandmother. They don't see her as such. She doesn't want to be seen as such either. She calls herself Aunt. Her actions weren't dotting, nor did they have anything to do with her not being able to formulate relationships with children. She doesn't care about my daughter's happiness. She just treats her like a doll. My son, meanwhile, is cast aside. If someone overwhelms one of my children and ignores the other on his birthday, they don't need to be around my kids. And to answer part of your other question, I have spoken with Sasha. It was the whole point of the boundary conversation. I communicated what was wrong and what she could do to improve. Whenever I try to set boundaries, Sasha disrespects them. She does not listen to me. It's not my job to teach her how to build a relationship with my kids any more than I already have. That's the point of this no-contact policy. Sasha doesn't listen to me or my children. If my kids didn't mind, I'd consider other ways of approaching this, but they do mind, and I refuse to force them to be around someone who disrespects them. And the fact that she refuses to listen to my grandchildren and insists on pushing her fantasies onto my daughter is enough for me to go no contact. I have no intention of updating anytime soon, nor am I looking for any more advice. Thank you for your concern. Oh, Sasha, darling, you silly mail-order bride, what have you done? You've lost your relationship with the children who you treat like toys and pets and dolls. OP and her husband gave her multiple opportunities, and Sasha was just like, okay, has it been enough time yet? Can I talk to your kids? Can I braid your daughter's hair? Gimme. Girl, calm down. Those aren't your kids. As for what a few of the comments were saying about her possibly trying to live out something through the kids and maybe kind of like secretly wanting to be a mother or subconsciously wanting to be a mother, I think that's one of the factors here. That one comment suggested maybe OP speak to Sasha one-on-one, sit down and talk to her. It doesn't seem like she did that, nor does she need to do that. Maybe things could have been different if she did that, but that conversation didn't happen. But if it did, I feel like we might have learned something about Sasha's deeper manifestations. And I think it does have to do with the fact that she's not a mother and maybe wants to be one, whether she realizes it or not. But that's just my personal theory. Maybe you guys think something else, but maybe she's even like convinced herself that she's like, well, I don't need kids because my husband doesn't need any. I don't know. I just think that might be the case here. But anyway, guys, we are at the end of the story. The video's over. Okay, it's gonna end soon. I'm so sorry. I can't do anything about it. The only thing I can do is get in the recording booth again tomorrow and record more stories for you. Is that enough? Do you love me yet? What more do I have to do to prove to you? But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching and have a really good day. Bye-bye.